Well, it's Fabulous Friday, March the 5th, and welcome to the reading of the Mansfield News Journal. My name is Pam, and as always, let's begin today's reading with the area deaths. Martha May Hurt passed away Monday, March 1st, in her home surrounded by her family. She was 85. The Hurt family will receive friends Thursday, March 4th from 4 to 7 p.m. in the Belleville Snyder Funeral Home, where a funeral service honoring Martha's life will be held Friday beginning at 11 a.m. And that concludes the area deaths available for today. So now let's begin with our first article. Council considers trash overhaul by Monroe Trombley. Should where you live determine when your garbage is picked up? A bill before City Council would do just that, splitting Mansfield into 5 collection zones, with each having its own pickup day. At present, private haulers set their own routes, meaning trash day can be multiple times a week on the same street. This current system permits every day of the week to be trash pickup day somewhere on every street, resulting in the city being in a constant state of disarray. The bill, sponsored by 5th Ward Councilman Jason Lawrence, said. David Falquette, president of council, said at Tuesday night's council meeting that having collection zones would reduce the amount of trash that sits on the curb. It would also allow the city's code and permits department to determine when residents flout city law that stipulates refuge or containers can't be on a curb more than 24 hours. If everybody's trash goes out on the same day, it's all off the street on the same day. There's 6 days a week of silence. There's 6 days a week with no trash cans out, Falquette said. Council is due to consider the bill at least 3 more times, with a final vote scheduled for April 20th. The proposal would not affect commercial, industrial, or multifamily residential properties where large trash containers are used. Several owners of local trash hauling companies were invited to Tuesday's council meeting, held via Zoom. Most said they would comply with the new rules, but are firmly opposed to them. Having one pickup day in a single zone would lead to congestion, traffic, and confusion for customers, they argued. Most of our customers we've had for 20 years, said Mike Boyd, owner of Trash Masters. They're used to the same day. Bill Wright, who owns Wright Refuge, says he has a 10-hour route that covers Butler and Belleville on Fridays. Where would I squeeze in a Friday route on a 10-hour day I already have in the city of Mansfield? He asked. Steve Cobb of Garbage Guys Who Care suggested hauling companies tell the codes and permits department when their trucks are on a given street. I don't change my route hardly ever, he said. There are simpler solutions that don't create the complications than what's described. We just feel that the trash in the city at one point is the consumer responsibility for their trash and their pickup times on their pickup day, so that trash isn't sitting out for days at a time, added Rachel Haynes of Rick Haynes Rubbish. City officials, including Mayor Tim Thieker, did not weigh in on the bill Tuesday. 3rd Ward Councilman John Van Harlington expressed concern about traffic. I'm concerned about putting all these trucks in the same neighborhoods at the same time, he said. In other news, Council unanimously passed a resolution urging Governor Mike DeWine and the Ohio Department of Health to include law enforcement officers in Phase 1B of the state's vaccine rollout. Police officers included in Phase 1C will become eligible to receive a COVID-19 vaccine beginning Thursday, DeWine announced on Monday. The resolution had been pulled from Council's agenda as it was drafted ahead of Monday's announcement, but its co-sponsor, at-large Councilman Phil Scott, suggested putting the resolution back on the agenda. Council considered advancing $84,000 for the West End Target area. In December, Council unanimously passed a resolution affirming their support for a plan that aims to beautify the area bordered by Marion Avenue, Park Avenue West, South Main Street, and Glessner Avenue. A final vote for the advance is scheduled for March 16th. Council considered 2021's final budget, discussed Monday during a Finance Committee meeting. A final vote is scheduled for March 16th. Council unanimously passed legislation that raised salary caps for non-bargaining city employees, should the city want to give them a 2% raise this year. The raises depend on revenue and appropriations in light of the coronavirus pandemic, city officials have said. And Council unanimously passed legislation authorizing the city engineer to establish contract retainage terms for construction of public improvements. And that concludes that article. So moving on. Niece urges John Mack Jr. to turn himself in, by Lou Whitmire. The niece of the man suspected of kidnapping his ex-girlfriend Melinda Davis is urging her uncle to turn himself in to law enforcement. Whitney Mack, 24, who was living at the Cliffside Drive home with her uncle John Henry Mack Jr. for the past couple of months, said she was not home but stayed at the Mansfield-Richland County Public Library on February 25th, the day Melinda K. Davis went missing. Davis, 33, of Shelby, was last seen near Shelby High School around 7:20 a.m. that day, driving her black 2013 Volkswagen Jetta with Ohio plates JGZ8921. She was believed to have been headed to Mansfield to make contact with Mack, according to an initial news release from Shelby Chief Police Lance Combs. John, turn yourself in. It has affected both families because we need answers and we care for both of you, Whitney said Tuesday in a phone interview with the News Journal. Obviously, someone is missing and 4 children are missing their mom. There are 10 kids involved between the two of them. She has 4, he has 6 children. For the children's sake, she said. Whitney said she is here visiting family and is going to school in Mississippi and keeps her things at Mack's house. She has not heard from her uncle since Thursday morning. She urged him to call the Richland County Sheriff's Office. The Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation and Identification was called to process the scene. Based on the investigation and the collection and processing of evidence, and after consulting with Richland County Prosecutor's Office, detectives obtained an arrest warrant for Mack on a charge of kidnapping, the Sheriff's Office said on Monday. A reward for up to $5,000 is being offered for information directly leading to the arrest of Mack. According to a news release issued Tuesday, the U.S. Marshals Service and the Richland County Sheriff's Office are searching for Mack for the kidnapping of Davis. A warrant for his arrest was issued on Friday. Davis has not been seen or heard from since Thursday, according to the marshals. Mack was described as a 43-year-old black male, 5'10", weighing about 160 pounds. Family, friends, and associates of Mack are reminded that providing assistance to the suspect could result in criminal charges. Anyone with information regarding the whereabouts of a known fugitive is encouraged to contact the U.S. Marshals Northern Ohio Violent Fugitive Task Force at 1-866-4-WANTED. Richland County Sheriff's Captain Donald Zahner said anyone who seeks Max or Davis's black Volkswagen Jetta should call 911. Mansfield man gets 15 years for raping a child by Monroe Trombley. A Mansfield man has been sentenced to 15 years in prison for raping a girl who was 9 years old at the time of the assault. Brandon O'Neill, 33, changed his plea Tuesday in Richland County Common Pleas Court. Appearing via Zoom from the county jail, O'Neill pleaded guilty to 1 count each of rape and gross sexual imposition. The assault came to light when the victim, who had begun harming herself, told a counselor last year what O'Neill had done in 2018, according to Assistant Prosecutor Olivia Boyer. Common Pleas Judge Brent Robinson said O'Neill had been a friend of the babysitter watching the girl. You made some admissions when the police talked to you, and later I think you made some admissions to a children's services worker, Robinson said. Had the case gone to trial, Boyer said the child would have had to testify against O'Neill. There has been quite a bit of work by the victim's family to counsel her and help move past this particular incident, and their concern was what the stress of a trial would have done, Boyer said. The victim's family was not present in court on Tuesday. Robinson declared O'Neill a Tier 3 sex offender, meaning he will have to register with the county sheriff's office wherever he lives every 90 days for the rest of his life when he is released from prison. He will also be on probation for 5 years after his release. Ashland University offers tuition relief for first-time students by Christine Jenkins. Students enrolling at Ashland University this fall will have some financial assistance thanks to AU trustee Bob Archer and his wife Janet. According to a news release, first-time students who complete the 2021 fall term with a GPA of 2.0 or better will automatically receive the 2-for-1 scholarship, which will cover any remaining tuition expenses for the spring 2022 semester. To be eligible, students must be considered full-time and live on campus during both fall and spring semesters. In response to impact of COVID, it is responsive to the impact of COVID, said Carlos Campo, president of AU. Hesitation developed, and students I've talked to didn't feel prepared because of what happened last year at their high school. Students aren't sure if they're ready financially. 400 students who already deposited money qualify. To help jumpstart students who weren't sure of their decision to enroll in college, this scholarship will help meet their goal of earning an education. Campo said 400 students who already have deposited money for tuition qualify. All they need to do is keep their GPA at or above a 2.0, continue to live on campus, and be a full-time student, he said. Junior Katie Harrigan, digital media production major, appreciates the action taken by the Archers to help students during this difficult time. Everyone has been affected by the virus in some way, Harrigan said. Scholarships can take some stress off of students and their families because college is very expensive. It's good to know the university acknowledges it is a hard time, and they are taking the time to help the incoming freshmen. Not the only scholarship offered at AU, Campo also stressed that this is not the only scholarship offered. The Archers also provided additional funding for scholarships for students who are not first-year students and need an extra boost in financial assistance. None of these scholarships need to be repaid. Our goal is to help students reach their academic goal, Campo said. We're not going to let $1,000 keep you from reaching that academic goal. Up next, Crestline's Hub will be Wedding and Event Venue by Jerry Goebel. The Hub at Village Square will open soon as a wedding and event center. Two Madison High School graduates, Vanessa Smith and Alyssa Huss, are operating the new business in the building owned by Joe and Gretchen Zugan, who renovated the former Rite Aid building on Seltzer Street and have been seeking the right tenant for it. Smith said someone told Joe Zugan to reach out to her and her husband, who own the business Create, Restore, and More that refinishes and builds furniture. Zugan found them at their booth during the Prairie Peddler Festival. My husband talked to him and he said, "Hey, I have this building. I don't really know what to do with it," she said. They came to see the building and then thought immediately it should be a wedding venue. I was like, "Yeah, it's perfect," she said. Smith reached out to Huss, who owns Alyssa Huss Photography. The two have been friends since middle school. Both live in Richland County's Mifflin Township near Charles Mills Lake. "It's only like 19 minutes from here, so it's really just a hop and a skip," Smith said. "We both grew up in the area and really like to help the community. We're really excited." They've been working on the building for about 2 months, adding features such as a huge pair of rustic barn doors and hanging lights in the area where they envision wedding ceremonies taking place. They staged a style photo shoot and filmed a video to showcase their vision for weddings in the venue. "Joe kind of had the bones of it already done," Smith said. "They've had a number of brides-to-be contacting them for appointments to see the venue. People like that it's a new space," Huss said, "and it looks like it's super current. The building's exposed ceiling gives it a bit of an urban loft vibe, but with small town charm," they said. The interior of the 11,000 square foot building is mostly wide open, but it has some unique touches, including the full Charles E. Troy drugstore counter. It was purchased out of a Crestline store for the Cedar Point Town Hall Museum. When items from that collection were sold at auction, a Troy descendant bought it back, and it was moved to the Hub. "It cost them like 15 grand to move it here, so it's staying here," Smith said, laughing. "It makes a great backdrop for wedding photos," they observed. "So does the vintage black pickup that occupies another corner." Right now, the first wedding is scheduled for June 5th. They're still working on the bride's room and other finishing touches, including expanded restroom facilities. It has a full bar with liquor license. It's controlled by us because it has a liquor license here, which is really nice, Smith said. People don't have to worry about that, which is great. The 17-foot garage door hidden behind the rustic barn doors adds a lot of flexibility, too. People can bring in classic cars, catering trucks, or even a food truck. They can drive right on in, Smith said. A ginormous new sign for the building will go on the wall, too. Working with Zugan has been great, they both said. You tell him you need something, he's got people here, Huss said. You couldn't ask for a better situation. Smith and Huss said they definitely intend to do more than host weddings at the venue, though. One of the things we want to do is have a concert series every second Friday at the gazebo, kind of like a country acoustic artist, Smith said. We also want to do car shows or whatever we can to get people here. Vendor markets, nonprofit things, Mother's Day brunches, father-daughter dances. Because it's such a large facility, I mean, it's 11,000 square feet. That's a lot. They're still getting to know the Crestline community, they said. We want to piggyback off of what they already have, but we kind of want to do our own thing too, to try to get a different crowd here, Smith said. Being from Mansfield, you know Mansfield does their downtown Final Fridays, so we kind of want to bring that crowd here for a fresh, new feel. State investigators state youth held down and traumatized at Mohican Young Star Academy. Facility director denies abuse allegations. By Janine Kendall. State investigators, citing the use of improper restraint, went to court Wednesday asking a judge to remove the owner of an area youth treatment center and put operation of the facility into a third-party receiver. A civil lawsuit filed in Ashland County Common Pleas Court by the Ohio Attorney General's office seeks a temporary restraining order and an immediate injunction against Mohican Young Star Academy owner Olga Starr. The action follows a state inspection at the residential treatment center in Perrysville with reports of abuse and a gross lack of reporting of the use of restraints, according to a news release from Attorney General Dave Yost. The court action is filed on behalf of the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services, or the Ohio MHAS. These youths were in need of treatment and compassion, but instead were held down and traumatized, Yost said in the release. There's a clear line between therapy and abuse, and that's why we are before the court. Mohican is a residential facility to help treat youth suffering from mental health and/or addiction issues. During an inspection, residents report restraints, abuse. The department inspected the facility and interviewed several residents who said they were subject to restraint and abuse, Yost's report said. Investigations found video surveillance of incidences in which improper restraint techniques were used. Several victims, all under the age of 18, reported being improperly restrained by staff members, resulting in injuries. Mohican Young Star is required to maintain a log of each incident of restraint and seclusion and for timeouts exceeding 60 minutes. Court papers show. Incidents reports are mandated for each time restraint is used. Physical restraints or transitional holds that are not clinically justified or are employed without authorization must be reported within 24 hours of discovery of the incident. During the inspections, surveyors obtained documentation of incidents and surveillance video footage of multiple instances of physical restraints of residents by Mohican Young Star staff. Mohican Young Star denies abuse allegations. In a prepared statement released later Wednesday, Facility Executive Director Olga Starr said the Attorney General's allegations are simply not true. We have a zero-tolerance policy for abuse of any kind, the statement reads in part. Our facility carefully reviews every allegation of abuse or neglect and reports them to the youth's county boards. In the past, Mohican has responded to substantiated allegations by firing and suspending employees involved in the improper treatment of youth. All external investigations agreed with our findings in every case. Mohican facility is licensed to utilize physical holds. Safe holds are crucial to protect all parties from imminent danger. Starr's statement continued, as with other facilities that handle this population, aggressive delinquents comprise a segment of the Mohicans' residents. These youths come to the academy for treatment, often with a history of violent offense. At the academy, they sometimes engage in violence with other youth and staff. Starr went on to defend her facility's reputation, saying it's known for excellent treatment outcomes, and Ohio counties consider the facility a top provider. We continually look for ways to improve the quality of care and treatment. Videos show incidents, but gaps too. In multiple videos, there are unexplained gaps or jumps in the recordings, according to the lawsuit. One video shows a resident being held against a wall. The video jumps, and later the resident appears on the floor. Inspection personnel asked to view videos of other physical restraint actions, but none were provided, according to court documents, despite the fact the log indicates the incidents occurred in locations covered by surveillance cameras. Staff training materials obtained by inspectors show restraint techniques that are prohibited by Ohio law, according to the lawsuit. Specifically, the materials demonstrate techniques for placing an individual in a prone restraint, which is strictly prohibited. The inspections uncovered multiple instances of Mohican Young Star staff using illegal restraints on children, according to the lawsuit. In early January, a 16-year-old was restrained by staff in a harmful way, court filings noted, when the staff member physically instigated the incident with the resident, who was restrained for about 18 minutes. The resident said he was told he wouldn't be released until he agreed to report a certain story or version of events concerning the restraint, according to court papers, which note the incident is shown in video. Court papers described several such incidents, which were not reported on the required log. Investigators determined there was present danger to the health and safety of the youth residing at Mohican, the release notes. Our priority is the safety, health, and well-being of these youths. What they experience at the hands of adults who should have been providing hope and healing is abusive and unacceptable, said Ohio Mental Health and Addiction Services Director Lori Chris in the release. I am grateful for the bravery of those who spoke up, and I appreciate the urgent and careful work of our staff and the Attorney General to protect them and ensure they can safely continue their treatment and recovery. Yost asked the court to issue an order allowing a different licensed operator, Wingspan Care Group, to take over management of the facility. Mohican Young Star is a Class I residential facility that treats youth under age 18 or people with a mental disability who are under 21 years old. According to the court papers filed in the Ashland court, the facility currently has 80 residents who are in the legal custody of a state or county government agency. About 35 state or county agencies have custodial responsibility for at least one of the 80 residents, court records show, noting the residents are placed at the facility by their custodial agencies and are not free to leave. Ohio MHAS on site during leadership training. Ohio MHAS staff is on site at Mohican Young Star Academy and will remain so through the transition to assist residents and their families, the release said. Ohio MHAS is the licensing and regulatory authority over providers of behavioral services to ensure the safety, health, and well-being of Ohioans receiving care and treatment from these providers. For more information about the regulatory authority, call the department's Consumer and Family toll-free bridge line at 1-877-275-6364. Moving on, Mr. 1000. Lucas's Solder flies in a rare air with scoring milestone by Jake Furr. Ethan Solder stepped to the free throw line in a scoreless tie early in the Cubs district semifinal Tuesday against South Central. Fouled in the act of shooting, Sauter was sent to the line for two. He drained his first one with ease. Then he started to get shaky arms and legs as he approached his second shot. The senior entered the game with 998 career points, and with that first made free throw, was just 1 point away from a historic milestone. He let his second free throw fly, and it clanked off the back of the iron. He was stuck at 999. The very next possession down the floor, Sauter wiggled his way to the right elbow, elevated and sank a jump to put his team up 3-0 and give him the 1,101st point of his amazing career. Lucas coach Taylor Eisman burned a 30-second timeout so Sauter could get the recognition he deserved. He received a standing ovation from the Lucas faithful, who made the trip to Willard to see the Cubs come away with a 34-26 win over South Central, sending them to Friday's district championship game against St. Paul. But what makes Sauter's accomplishment so impressive is he already holds the single game 14, single season 116, and career 457 records for assists. A past first point guard scoring 1,000 career points is unheard of. In years past, if his jump shot wasn't falling, he would quit shooting and only look to dish, Eisman said. Now he's attacking and getting to the free throw line, and then the nights where he is hitting from the outside, he's really tough. Sauters, who has been a starter for the Cubs all 4 years, came in as a freshman running the show. His passing ability made him an easy choice to run the points for the Cubs as soon as he was eligible to play varsity 4 years ago. Eisman saw the youngster take on the position and never look back. It is super impressive that he is able to hold the assist records and score 1,000, Eisman said. It shows what kind of game he has and what kind of kid he is. He's a past first guy, but does what the team needs. Sauter always could score. As a freshman, he broke the program record for most points by a freshman with 189, which has since been broken by this year's freshman phenom, Logan Toms, who has 206 and counting. It does mean a lot, Sauter said of the accomplishment. I came in as a freshman and I got a record for most points in a season for a freshman, and I kept that in mind as I reflected on 1,000. It is one heck of an accomplishment because I see everyone else who does it in the area, and it is an honor to be mentioned along with them. It is always something you want to accomplish and get in the record books for. It means a lot to be up there with a bunch of great people. Sauter joins 7 other 1,000-point scorers in program history. Logan Nicewander, 1,335. Elijah Foss, 1,321. Chris Eisman, 1,216. Pat Kelser, 1,080. Craig Eisman, 1,049. And Andrew Booth, 1,018, were all milestone scorers before Sauter. One person who has been with Sauter the entire way is senior teammate Ethan Wallace, who knew what kind of player Sauter was going to be before Sauter knew himself. I knew he could do it, and everyone else did too, Wallace said. He is that kind of kid. He is a more than capable scorer, even though he'll never admit it. He knows he is. But it isn't the first time Sauter saw a grand. He was a 1,000-yard rusher for the Cubs football team this season as they played for their 3rd consecutive regional championship. It isn't known if those 2 accomplishments have been achieved by anyone other than Sauter in the history of Lucas High School. Sauter now hopes to lead the Cubs back to the Sweet 16 during their district championship game against St. Paul at 7 p.m. Friday at Willard High School. Well, that concludes the reading of the Mansfield News Journal for Friday, March 5th. Please stay safe until we are together again. My name is Pam. Thank you for inviting me into your home. Be blessed and make it a great day.